Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. It's Alysia and I'm very excited to be with you for our weekly global online fireside chat. Today I'm broadcasting to our glorious Silicon Beach based in Los Angeles, California, the home of Hollywood, Rodeo Drive, and the amazing Venice Beach. To all those Bitcoin and blockchain enthusiasts out there, we have an amazing session with some super smart VIP guests planned for you today. Given all the hype and concerns around Bitcoin lately, together with Jamie Dimon's attack on Bitcoin, we thought who better to set the record straight than a panel of super specialists from around the globe who will be discussing Bitcoin, is it a fraud? Our global panel shares its insights. Now I've got you all excited. Let me go ahead and introduce you to our VIP guests before asking them to properly introduce themselves to you. Welcome to our superstars. Oslo, Norway-based Bjorn Bjerk is a technologist, public speaker, and technical advisor on cryptographic technologies. Welcome. Welcome also to Jamil Hassan, who's a financial technologist, leader and blockchain cryptocurrency expert. Also welcome to Ariana Simpson, who's a technologist, speaker, startup enthusiast, and venture capitalist. Welcome also to New York-based Patrick Feeney, who's a trader, entrepreneur, and blockchain and cryptocurrency expert. And last but definitely not least, welcome to Berlin, Germany-based Thomas Ackerman, who's a technology innovator, early technology adopter, and blockchain expert. Now, I know you want to hear from them, so let me ask our VIPs to properly introduce themselves to you, starting with Thomas. Thomas, please say hi to everyone.
Yes, hello. I'm Thomas Ackerman. I've been a geek all my life and lived in the United States for about 20 years, working on the internet infrastructure, various applications, and moved on to cyber and extra warfare. And along with many other firsts that I've done over the time, always being a little bit ahead of the technology curve, I got into Bitcoin and am now the CTO of BitCoin Industries, a company that focuses on infrastructure for proof-of-work blockchain technologies, and also work in quantum computing with an aspect on blockchain and looking into the influences that quantum computing can have on the blockchain technology. And I'm very much looking forward to this little chat.
Welcome, Thomas. Very excited to have you join us. Ariana, please say hi to everyone.
Hello, Ariana Simpson, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I was also early into Bitcoin before it was cool, as I like to say. I have a background in sales, marketing originally, and then have moved into investing full time in the past several years. I've had a focus on cryptocurrency, like I said, for about 5 years now, but I've also done a lot of early stage investing outside of that environment as well.
Welcome, Ariana. Super excited to have you join us. Patrick from New York City, please say hi to everyone.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Patrick Feeney. I have 15 years experience as a hedge fund trader at Dawson Herman Capital Management, Amaranth, Millennium, and Jay Goldman. Discovered Bitcoin in 2012. CEO and founder of Bitcoin Nation, which was a worldwide remittance firm for Bitcoin through the ATM. I sold it to Pierre Nova in 2015, acquired my MBA in 2001. I'm working on my master's in computer science. I'm an innovative consultant in the cryptocurrency and blockchain space, focused on business, education, trading, and advisory.
Once again, super excited to have you join us, Patrick. Welcome. Jamil, please say hi to everyone.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jamil Hassan. I'm president of Minerva Data Advisors and in partnership to co-found a company, Blockchain Consulting Group, with my partner, Drew Miller. Together, we offer crypto war games. We also offer blockchain advisory, and I do ICO advisory. I'm a former AIG employee and probably top closer in the IT space. I got a special combination of operations, finance, IT, and project management background. So I'm able to really close any kind of deal or any kind of project, and looking forward to being part of this blockchain community. Thank you.
Welcome, Jamil. And last but definitely not least, Bjorn, please say hi to everyone.
Thank you, Alysia. It's Bjorn Bjerke here. I've been, working the last 20 years on infrastructure and banks and so on. And, Bitcoin kind of hit me in the face about 4 years ago. And right off the bat, I dove down into the rabbit hole, took the red pill and started mining and watched my thousands hours of mandatory Andreas Andreanopoulos, and I'm loving it, going around the world right now, teaching people, and I'm so enthusiastic about this space and what's going on.
Well, I echo your feelings. I'm sure all our VIP guests are going to have a lot of fun today. Welcome, Bjorn. Thank you for joining us. Just before we jump into our questions for our VIPs, some quick shout outs. On the screen are contact details for our VIP guests. Feel free to reach out to them. Don't forget to keep sending your questions through to Inspire Me at Online Fireside Chat, and we'll do our very best to include them. Just to remind you, we have community champions and meetup groups in over 60 countries and 80 cities around the globe, including in North and South America, UK, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, India, Asia, and Australia. If you'd like to meet up with your local chapters or you'd like to start your own, feel free to reach out to us via email or put you in contact with your local community champion. On that note, I know I say it twice a week, but I cannot thank our volunteer champions from around the globe enough. You are the heart and soul of our community, and we wouldn't be here today without you. Over the next few months, with all your help, our aim is to empower and inspire entrepreneurs in more than 100 countries. We know together we can make that happen. Thank you again to our VIP guests for joining us today and sharing your incredibly interesting knowledge so freely. Thank you to all the presidents, prime ministers, ambassadors, and our growing family of supporters and collaborators from around the developing world who once again hosting sessions for hundreds of entrepreneurs who don't have access to the necessary bandwidth or understanding the English language to join our sessions on their own. Thank you to all the government ministries, UN offices, US Embassy Corners, World Economic Forum, British Council offices, university campuses, schools, business incubators, Chamber of Commerce's, community centers, and community radio stations for all your ongoing weekly hosting support and for raising awareness within your regions. Thank you to everyone from our UN Women team for all your support as well. We're once again streaming across new live platforms today. If you'd like us to broadcast from a community radio station near you and you'd like us to inspire more entrepreneurs in your community, make sure to reach out to us. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, you're here to learn from the best, and they are definitely joining us today. Our topic for today is Bitcoin. Is it a fraud? Our global panel shares its insights. Just to make our VIPs feel super comfortable, we're going to pose the question to one of you, but it goes to all of you. Feel free to be 100% honest. We know this is a very cheeky topic, so we want to hear the good, bad, and ugly. So let's see who we're going to put in the hot seat today. Let's put Patrick in the hot seat. Patrick, we are going to pose this question to you. Let's get your insights and let's get the ball rolling. So, sure. Patrick, I know you're really good at what you do, but keep this simple for our community of entrepreneurs, please. So as simply as possible, can you please explain to our audience what Bitcoin is and how it all works?
Oh boy. Okay, well, Bitcoin is really the blockchain. Okay, and Bitcoin is just the first use case being money. Blockchain has about 60 use cases to it. But here's the deal. It's basically, we're in 1996, 1998, and the internet's just been invented, but this is 2 to 5 times as big because it could be applied to everything on the internet. The blockchain is a decentralized, encrypted, peer-to-peer, no borders, can't stop it. And basically probably one of the greatest inventions ever, and it will change the world. There's no doubt about it. And we're probably in the first inning. And the great thing is there's no intermediaries. It's trustless. I mean, the inventor has solved the problem that's been trying to be solved for, I don't know, probably 1,000 years. And I just see a huge, bright future. It's totally not a fraud. Jamie Dimon, he's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth. He has a blockchain group for 2 years. He's on a stage poo-pooing Bitcoin, but then across in California, a JP Morgan sponsored conference with Polychain Capital, is hosting it. So make up your mind.
Awesome insights being shared. You've got us going in the right direction today. Thank you, Patrick. Bjorn, we'd love to hear from you. Ariana also. Bjorn, please go for it, and then we'd love to hear from Ariana.
Sure. So, taking a step back and looking at what's going on in the world, we see that China is now doing a push to get rid of the petrodollar and now taking control of the monetarization of oil. Now they don't want competition on this. So what do? They ban all cryptocurrencies and they get this stuff out because they want to centralize the power of money. Now JP Morgan knows what's up, and they know that the dollar's kind of out of the race when it comes to oil now. So they have to figure out a great new plan on how to continue their business as usual. So what do? They go online start talking, you know, smack about Bitcoin, and then within, you know, 24 hours, they're already in the game. We saw JP Morgan buying up Bitcoin within 12 hours of them standing on stage, or Jamie Dimon standing on stage. So, I mean, it's obvious what's going on here. The dollar is dying. The yen is being centralized, the yuan in China is being centralized, and Bitcoin's right smack in the middle, you know, becoming an exit out of this whole mess that has been going on since 2008.
Thank you, Bjorn, and fascinating insights being shared. Ariana, coming back to what we're here for today, Bitcoin, how it works, what you've seen, please share your insights in terms of what Patrick and Bjorn have been saying. And of course, please keep your answers simple. We have entrepreneurs around the globe joining us.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing to note about Bitcoin is that while, you know, I think in that particular case, the store of value digital gold use case is reaching the point where I think we can say that it's been proven out to a certain degree. There's actually a lot of promise that I think we have yet to discover. So I don't necessarily think that a lot of the applications have even been conceived of right now. You know, of course, the analogy of Bitcoin and the internet is frequently used, but I think it's really true to think about the fact that many of the use cases of the internet could not have been conceived of back in the day. And I think similarly, right now, everyone is thinking about what things can we currently do that we are doing, but how can we do them better, faster, cheaper on the blockchain? And all of that is certainly very interesting. But I think that actually probably some of the more transformative use cases have yet to be discovered, and we aren't even really thinking about what those are yet. So I view this as like a, you know, 30, 50-year wave of innovation, and I think we are just at the beginning. And so it's really hard to say what many of the use cases are going to be in the future.
Thank you, Ariana. You've touched on some very interesting points. I'm definitely coming back to you on them. Talking about what you were saying, Thomas, our entrepreneurs would like to know the difference between cryptocurrencies and regular traditional currencies like the pound, dollar, yen. Please give us your expert insights in the simplest way possible.
Yeah, that's a good question to ask a geek. Well, I think the biggest difference is that in the traditional currencies, the dollar, yuan, yen, euro, you basically trust the system to manage the money and the money supply. And of course, since this all started with the comments from the CEO of JP Morgan, the banks have the unique ability to make money. For every dollar they take as a deposit, they loan out 10. So there's a miraculous way of gaining more money from making simple deposits by the customers. And of course, they love the rule of central control of that money that gives them the power to distinguish and to distribute it between the lenders and the investments. And governments basically all around the world do the same thing. Since the traditional currencies are no longer tied to a material value, it used to be gold. You know, there's an equal amount of value of gold stored in Fort Knox and equivalent storages. Since that's all gone, governments have also the ability to just create more money and just print more or create it virtually. Most money is not available any longer in the way of touching bills, it's mostly virtual. And the cryptocurrencies are basically doing the opposite. There is basically one cryptocurrency that is really mathematically backed, and that is the one we're talking about here today, which is Bitcoin. Other currencies are, I would say, carbon copies to one or another with differences in it, and how far they are backed up is a matter of speculation for each of them. One has to look at it very closely. So if you just look at Bitcoin for the simple comparison, there is a limited supply of Bitcoins. There will only be 21 million of them. And if you look at the very basic approaches on how you manage supply and demand, if you've read Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, it explains in very simple terms how that works. and that if you have a limited supply and you cannot just add more supply to it, its value will go up eventually. And you're looking at the methodology behind it, the math and all that hashing that works in the mining process.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we have a ton of questions coming through that we will come back to. Jamil, we'd love to hear your insights quickly in terms of what Thomas was saying. Ultimately, the difference between cryptocurrencies and the regular traditional currencies that we all use on a daily basis. Please share your insights before we move on to our next question, Jamil.
Great. I just see a cryptocurrency as internet money, as a token on the blockchain. Bitcoin has a high value right now because there's so many use cases that can come down the pike. Bitcoin can be used for many, many, many different things that has tremendous value. But every, it's decentralized, so there's no person owning the primary key. There are other cryptocurrencies that are centralized where you think you have money, but it's centralized where you don't actually have the money. The value of the dollar or other currencies in the countries, paper currencies are traditionally used, and that has value. But the coins or tokens to me to be used on the blockchain, and the blockchain to me has tremendous value for companies. So I tie everything to the value of the blockchain.
Thank you, Jamil. Now, as you say, there's some very interesting insights being shared. Ariana, we're posing this question to you. Patrick, we'd love your insights as well. Goes to the rest of the panel as well. An interesting case in point that's come up that I think everybody wants to talk more about, Ariana, is that in September 2016, Bitcoin was trading at $600. 1 year later, it reached $5,000. I know a lot of people around the world are talking about tulip fever. Where does Bitcoin ultimately get its value? Is it really a store of intrinsic value? And of course, where do we see ourselves in a year's time? We'd love to hear your insights, Ariana, and then of course, Patrick and the rest of the panel as well, if they have any insights to share. Ariana, please go for it.
Sure. Well, I think, it's always hard to make a short-term price prediction. And so I always stay away from doing that. But I think, a lot of the interest has certainly been driven by speculation, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing for Bitcoin or for the ecosystem. I actually think that if you look at innovation cycles, the speculative, manias are actually really important because they draw a lot of interest to the asset and also bring a lot of really solid technologists and people like that into the ecosystem. While some of them are in it for the short-term gains, I think there's certainly a lot of long-term value as well. So, where do we go from here? I think we go up. I mean, I personally know a number of folks who are raising hundreds of millions, billions of dollars to invest in the ecosystem. And so I have no question. I mean, it's simple math that the price is going to be going up over the next couple of years. Do I think there's also going to be a massive correction at a certain point? Yes. But I think that we have a long way up to go before that happens.
Thank you, Ariana. And now we'd like to get our trader's perspective. Let's hear it. Patrick, what do you think?
This isn't advice, but I don't shy away from making a price prediction. So I think if we break 4,400, I think you'll see 8,000 pretty easily, probably in the next 7 or 8 months. And here's why. You have two catalysts coming up that are pretty gigantic, or three actually. Wigfalls Brothers have been banging on the door of the SEC to get an ETF. An ETF is a product that hedge funds, pension funds, mutual funds actually understand and will not shy away from. Money will come flying in. Another two things that are very interesting coming up is that Bitcoin future, I think, out of Chicago, which will be totally regulated. And and if you know anything about futures, there's a lot of leverage involved. And even more exciting is Ledger X is approved, a totally regulated option market in Chicago that will be coming in Q1 of next year. So the big money can now get into products that they kind of don't understand it, and it's not insured, and there's a risk of ruin. But if you create a product that the big money understands, they're not going to shy away from it, and there's no question they're going to fly into it. And I also think people are looking at Bitcoin incorrectly. They say fraud and all these silly things. It's really freedom. You control a man by controlling his economics. You can't do that anymore with this invention. You control your own money. You have no risk to a third party, and you're really buying pieces of software at the end of the day. You're not buying a company. You're buying something like the TCP/IP protocol in 1996. The growth rate and value of that is astronomical.
Fascinating insights being shared today. This is a really cool session. Thank you, Patrick. Thomas, I know you got some insights from Germany you want to share. Please go ahead.
Well, there's one thing that we haven't looked at yet. Bitcoin is actually two different things. Most people realize and know it as the cryptocurrency and speculation and lots of other things. But the much bigger side of Bitcoin is that it monetizes the blockchain. And that is really very revolutionary and will be probably the bigger revenue source and ability to make money off the blockchain in the future. What the internet has been struggling with from the beginning to somehow make money with it has never happened because it was never built into the concept of the internet. And so all of the stuff is done as a communications medium, but nobody makes money off it itself. And with the blockchain, you can associate a fee, a payment with every single piece that everybody does on the blockchain, which makes it automatically, you just have to turn it on and you don't have to bill it in actual Bitcoins. You can associate it with any other currency as well. But that part of the blockchain, to have it monetized, is one of the really, really big advantages that we see in the blockchain, and it has not very much become aware in the public eye.
Thank you, Thomas. And I know Bjorn had some insights he also wanted to share before we move on to our next question. Bjorn, please go for it.
Yeah, sure. You know, it's a bigger picture here too, because it's all about verifiable, decentralized cryptographic technologies. We're not talking about trust anymore. Every single thing in the economic system that we've seen so far in history has been based on trust. Now, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are verifiable, and that changes the game completely. Now that individuals can verify this for themselves, and that will mean, you know, every single business out there that has trust models where you inevitably do not see your value at certain points within a transfer or within holding it, now that is changed forever. So I mean, this ecosystem will just grow and grow and grow. There's no doubt about it, and therefore it also cannot be a fraud, because frauds cannot be verified. Frauds are always hidden in some way or another, and it takes, you know, for blockchain professionals, seconds to debunk a cryptocurrency that is based off of some fraud model, just because we know what to look for, and it's all about the verification.
Thank you so much, Bjorn. As I say, some fascinating insights being shared today. So the ultimate reason we're here today is this Jamie Dimon, one of the most respected investors on Wall Street, saying it is a fraud. In your opinions, where do you ultimately think the biggest problems he was referring to are, and how do we solve these so that Bitcoin actually stands the future that we all believe it has? I know our communities in the emerging markets, there's a lot of value to Bitcoin in the emerging markets. Jamil, let's hear your thoughts in terms of the fraudulent side versus the opportunity for Bitcoin to succeed in a world that actually needs it.
Sure. I want to talk about Jamie Dimon first, briefly. He's the chief executive officer of JP Morgan. His job is to keep the stock price of JP Morgan high. He did that. So I kudos to him for doing that, for whatever he said. As far as it being a fraud, you know, a lot of people, especially in the US, you know, have trust-based models. So people have the fear of the unknown. You know, they don't really know where that money comes from or where it's going. People my age and older, when I say the word Bitcoin and blockchain, they look at me like I have two heads. Our model here in the US is strongly based on trust. And to change that model will take some time, but we just have to show the benefits. What are the benefits? You know, we have the major companies bringing in Bitcoin by payment and blockchain technology. Right now, it's been focused on payments, but there are a great many technologies where you can apply the blockchain, including artificial intelligence, smart cities, robotics, you know, mechatronics, infrastructure, you name it, you can apply the blockchain, you know. And as more and more projects take on the blockchain and apply the blockchain technology, people will feel more comfortable and confident using it. The other problem has been, you know, there's been a whole thing for 3 years, Ethereum versus Bitcoin. A lot of journalists have, you know, bastardized Bitcoin because it's competing in a space. I say it's all good, all of them, all 1,200 or more, whatever we have right now, including the Burger King coin. They're all good, and we can use that for good projects and purposes.
Thank you, Patrick. And again, fascinating insights being shared. Ariana, we'd love to hear your thoughts coming out of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of the ecosystem is still evolving, so it's hard to say what the landscape will eventually look like. I do believe that there is room for a number of these cryptocurrencies to be happily coexisting, in the sense that, for example, Patrick mentioned Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I think I can very clearly see a world in which Ethereum, which was designed as a scripting language and more of a platform upon which money can be raised and all sorts of projects can be built, that's a different use case from a store of value digital gold type use case, which seems to be emerging as Bitcoin's primary functionality, at least for now. So, I very much can envision a world in which many of these coins exist. I would slightly disagree on the front of, needing 1,001 plus coins. I think some of them were created kind of as jokes or as scams or things like that. And so I don't think those are necessarily very additive to the ecosystem, because there's no real innovation going on at that level. But at the same time, I don't think they're, at least the ones that are not fraudulent, I don't think they're terribly harmful to the ecosystem. So, some of that thrown in to keep it interesting, let's say.
Thanks, Ariana. And I know Thomas has some insights he wanted to share here too. Thomas, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking, we talk about Bitcoin so much. We should also probably talk a little bit about decentralization, that you have a very wide network that nobody controls. And just to add a different angle to it, I didn't mention before that I also consult several innovation hubs of various militaries, my own here in Germany, as well as several in the United States. And their take on the blockchain is that if you have an application running on the blockchain that can secure communications as one particular use, you have a decentralized network of message carriers, just put it easily, where any attacker cannot identify a source that they can attack. They would have to attack the whole system, and that's nearly impossible. So there are a variety of different uses to the blockchain that we can use, and Bitcoin as a currency is equally protected against these kind of attacks because it is so decentralized.
Thank you, Thomas. And Patrick, I know you had some insights to share here, as did Bjorn. Before we move on to our next question, Patrick, please share your thoughts in terms of what we've been talking about. And Bjorn, we'd love to hear from you too.
Well, you have a protocol, so it's totally not a fraud. I mean, Jamie Dimon is using the oldest trick in the book, speak badly about something, but put a bid in lower. Of course, he knows he was going to move it. He is fearful, and I would be fearful too if I'm sitting in his position. Some certain percentage of his business for consumers pretty quickly actually is going to be lost, and there's really nothing he can do about it. So of course he's going to sit on it. He's basically begging the government to ban it and outlaw it, which is hilarious. Yeah, they could do that, but they're going to be chasing all sorts of people all over the place. They are more inclined to support it, not sit on the technology and try to get a VIG that way, or get taxes or fees, because if they sit on it, they'll have a gigantic shadow market. People are not going to not use this or get involved in this. It's a no-brainer. It's a protocol that's run for 7+ years, hasn't been, disrupted. It still works. It's been attacked, but it's trustless, decentralized, consensus proof of work, immutable, inexpensive, fast. It's got everything.
Thank you, Patrick. And lastly, to hear on this topic, Bjorn, before we move on to our next question, any thoughts you'd like to share with us?
No, I totally agree with Patrick on this one. He said it right out. Everything in Bitcoin is verifiable. I think one of the things that I'm looking for in this ecosystem is making it easier to verify, because right now you kind of have to have some knowledge to be able to verify a Bitcoin transaction. You have to kind of know what's going on. But I think, I would like to give this challenge to the community, is try to find ways to verify Bitcoin transactions for the masses. So the masses will easily see that, you know, it cannot be faked because I have this proof. And as I said, you need some prerequisites right now to be able to do that. And I would love to see that come out.
Thank you so much. And talking about the masses, we have a global community, as I say, with a very large focus on the emerging markets. Our next question goes to Thomas. We'd also love to hear from Ariana and Bjorn and any of our other panelists. We have WhatsApp groups around the world, and a hot topic around the world is Bitcoin. We would love to hear from you, given that you've lived in Germany, you've lived in the US, Nat, you've got a global perspective. In your opinion, do people perceive Bitcoin differently in different parts of the world? Thomas, please share your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much. Following on happening discussion about Jamie, that kind of leads me into that topic. I initially thought that he would just be one of those older guys who have not really caught on to the technology, with a secretary that prints out all of his emails for him to read. And maybe Patrick is right that he actually does understand the challenges and intentionally made this remark. The perception of Bitcoin around the world, from what I can see in dealing with people from all around the world on this topic, is that most people, I think, look at it the exact same way. They see the potential of Bitcoin and the underlying blockchain. They see what they can do with it, that it's a truly global thing that we can all use. We are living in a globalized world. That is just a fact. We cannot undo that, and it's only going to be even more interwoven. Without any real jurisdictions, nobody owns it, nobody controls it, and can't control it, as we've just seen in China. And both the users and those that have to adapt on it, on the banking side or so, do realize the value and the threat in it, the threat and the possibilities at the same time. So I believe there is not much of a misconception of what Bitcoin can do for all of us globally, for our societies and how they change our lives. I think there's common sense and agreement for the most part of it.
Thank you, Thomas. Ariana, we'd love to hear your perspective on this question.
Sure. I do think that there is some degree of difference in terms of how Bitcoin is perceived. I mean, one of the reasons why I actually became interested in cryptocurrency originally was because I had just come back from Zimbabwe when I first heard about it. And in Zimbabwe, they had one of the worst hyperinflations in the history of money. At its peak, it was something like 79.6 billion% a month. And so obviously in economies which have suffered from really destabilizing hyperinflation, so in addition to Zimbabwe, Venezuela, other places, I think there is certainly an interest in moving money to somewhere that is relatively safer. So ironically, in the United States, folks consider Bitcoin to be very volatile, but it's actually quite stable if you compare it to some of the other, national currencies that have seen some of these wild swings. So I do think that, kind of the specific country perspective does certainly color people's impressions of the various cryptocurrencies.
Thank you, Ariana, and thank you for giving the Zimbabwe example, a perfect example of how Bitcoin can successfully be used in the emerging markets. Bjorn, we'd love to hear your opinion from Norway. Please share. And then, of course, we'd love to hear from Jamil before we move on to our next question. Bjorn, please go for it.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, actually, because, working from Norway, Norway is a small country, so we have extensive communication with all other countries. And just lately, I've been in Switzerland. I have communication in Nigeria, in the States, and South America, and also Singapore. And surprisingly, we're all talking the same language here. When it comes to Bitcoin, it seems like, at least at the technological level, math is really the universal language here, and we're all agreeing on that the system is working the same way. Now, when it comes to the users and the mass adoptions, and there's a lot of misconceptions, and a lot of people are saying that it's anonymous and stuff like that, and that's simply not true. There are ways to find out who is behind the payment, even in Bitcoin, and also, of course, it's recorded onto the blockchain, so that's traceable forever. So using Bitcoin for anything illicit activities or illegal activities is just very stupid. But when it comes to the technology side, we're all on the same page around the world. That's at least what I'm experiencing.
Thank you, Bjorn. And last but not least on this question, Jamil, please share your insights before we move into our next question.
Sure. One of the offerings I have for my company is crypto war games, which is stress testing people's business plans. So I'm on the phone 8 to 12 times a day with people from different countries. I see tremendous projects and tremendous progress going on across the globe. I see a lot of companies and a lot of projects a little more advanced overseas than I do at home, which is concerning to me, because I think we should be, full force here at home as well in the US. But every day I learn more and more and more about infrastructure products, about different products online. I think they're all great. I think they're all great use cases of Bitcoin. I only see this growing.
Thank you, Patrick. Talking about growth in Bitcoin, our next question goes to Bjorn. And then Patrick, we'd love to hear your insights as well. And of course, any of our other co-panelists who'd like to share. So Bjorn, you've talked about Nigeria, you've talked about Switzerland, you work globally. What region in the world do you see the most investment per capita in building the Bitcoin ecosystem? Please give any insights you can here, because we have a global community listening.
Yeah, it's very interesting how these projects are bubbling up. We're seeing initiatives all over Europe, and but I must say I was surprised about Germany. No, about Switzerland. I'm sorry. Switzerland is really taking off right now. They got the Crypto Valley in Zug. One of the factors that is really playing in here is until now it's been person to person, or the small macroeconomic side. While in Switzerland, it's really taking off. Ernst & Young, one of the biggest corporate companies in the world, but one of the big four, Ernst & Young in Switzerland are taking Bitcoin for their consultancy prices, and they even have a Bitcoin ATM in their entree. So, Dell and Microsoft have been accepting payments, and Amazon is soon to be accepting Bitcoin payments. I mean, this is really hitting the corporate world right now, and I think we will see an explosion in that area, next year coming now.
Thank you for sharing those insights, Bjorn. As I once upon a time was a commodities trader based in that part of the world, so I get it. Thank you for sharing that with our global community. Patrick, we'd love to hear your insights in terms of what you're noticing investment per capita, and of course, we'd love to hear from Thomas and Ariana. Patrick, please share your insights here.
Sure. I mean, back in 2013, 14 or so, when I first got into this, China was, about half of the mining, half of the investment. USA was the other half, and then you had all these pockets. But what's happening now is really interesting, because India is actually looking to release a cryptocurrency. They're doing a lot of research about it. There's been rumbling and rumor there. Russia has done 180 on this completely, from wanting to ban it and make it illegal to making it legal, and actually going to do something on the Ethereum based. This is Estonia, for an example. I think it got pulled back, but Estonia, a country very hard to invest in, was going to release its own coin that would have opened up the whole country to investment pretty much for the first time. You can move money around almost any amount, settles in 15 or 40 minutes or something like that, most of the time less, and you can move anything digital around and protect it. So, I don't see how governments don't get on board. I imagine a world where if you really want to stop money laundering, you call in the cash as a government, you issue your own cryptocurrency, and now I can watch where all the money is through this system. But we'll see what happens. That's more of a kind of a moonshot.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm going to jump right in here before asking Thomas and Ariana to also share their questions around this topic. I know our time is limited today, but Patrick, if you had to predict which country would lead the way for Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies in the future?
Well, I think I'm going to say something that's probably going to surprise people. China. By them banning ICOs, I think they're using their brain about it. I think they're saying, okay, let's get this under control. Let's legitimize this. Also, how can we make money? We want our pound of flesh. I think something is going to come out of China that's probably going to really legitimize this, really put it on the map. I think they're kind of quote unquote banning it in the short term to protect it and then support it in the long term. I wouldn't be shocked about that at all. USA, I kind of don't really understand why they're not revving up the machine. I mean, we got our own problems all over the place, but they should be revving up the machine on this, and they're not sitting on it, but they're kind of asleep. And not the country entrepreneurs, but I just think the government bodies are not really paying attention to it. And if they support it more, forget it, gone.
Thank you, Patrick. Some very valuable insights being shared there. Thomas, we'd love to hear from you. Then Ariana, please go for it. Thomas, let's hear it.
Yeah, Patrick makes an excellent point. I think that the whole blockchain development is sort of a global equalizer in entrepreneurship. We knew that, or thought always, that everything that comes out new comes from Silicon Valley. I lived there long enough myself and see that for blockchain, it's not happening in Silicon Valley. One of the reasons why I moved back to Berlin, I'm an EU citizen, subsection Germany, and in Berlin is the place where most things happening in blockchain development in Europe. Then the Crypto Valley in Switzerland came up, and they are a small group, but very, very active. And then you have a lot of development and efforts and projects going on in Chennai and other areas of India. The Mumbai conference has just happened. And as Patrick said, I agree, there's also a lot of stuff going on in China. It's a huge country with a lot of very smart people. Even though they're struggling with some issues right now, I think on the long term, they will definitely do a lot more and become a very big player in the development of blockchain applications. They already have 3 companies that are dubbed the Ethereum killers, because they actually do smart contracts on the actual blockchain. So I think we'll probably see a lot from other parts of the world that bring this technology forward, and it's not going to be Silicon Valley.
Very, very interesting insights being shared today and very disruptive. Thank you for those comments, Thomas. Ariana, we'd love to hear your feedback on that one. And then Bjorn, before we move on to our next question. Ariana, please go for it.
Sure. Yeah, I do agree with some of the things that have been mentioned before in terms of, for example, Switzerland positioning itself to become basically to the crypto ecosystem what Delaware is to incorporating companies in the US. So basically the place where everybody perhaps is not based, but at least, legally bases their entities. I would also say that Singapore is interestingly poised to become a significant player in that market, just because of, some of the fairly friendly calls that they've made so far. I am slow to predict the demise of Silicon Valley. Of course, I'm biased. I'm here in the thick of it, but I think not so much necessarily that it's about the old centers of power and that those are hard to disrupt, which they are, but I just think the concentration of really smart engineers here is very high because it's been a technology hub for many decades at this point. And so I do expect that there is going to be a continuing wave of innovation coming out of here. But I also think it's very healthy to have folks from different backgrounds, different jurisdictions and places like that who are building new things and contributing to the ecosystem. And I think that's also important because many of the projects and I think the promise of, Ethereum applications or things that can be built on blockchains have to have local relevancy. And so, if I'm a Silicon Valley engineer, I don't necessarily know what a community in the Philippines needs. And so I think it's a good thing to have kind of a distributed base of engineers, designers, developers, creators who are making the next generation of apps and businesses on the blockchain.
Absolutely brilliant insights being shared today from Silicon Valley. Thank you, Ariana. Bjorn, we definitely want to hear your opinion before we move on to our next question for Jamil.
Yeah, just shortly. I mean, I totally agree with John, and I also see Singapore as one of the cowboy really rushing through this and trying to start something over there. But one country that we didn't mention, which I think the whole panel will agree upon, is Japan. Japan is embracing Bitcoin like like their own currency, and they also are looking into making their own digital currency or cryptocurrency out of their own money called the J-Coin, which is exciting, very exciting.
Thank you, Bjorn, and thank you for raising our attention to that. As I say, we are learning from the best today. So if we had to ask each of you to give some advice to world leaders, we have a lot of presidents, prime ministers, ambassadors joining us, some heads of some of the biggest banks in the world. What would your advice be, starting with Jamil? What would you tell them to do when it comes to the world of Bitcoin? Jamil, your insights in short.
Yeah, so what I see going on right now is I don't see a good order of tracking between what countries are investing in what countries' offerings. So what's happening, I see, is that these written contracts between the governments are being replaced, with the investments in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. It's tearing down some of the written contract laws. So I think there needs to be a reassessment of what those are and incorporate international commerce into some of the regulations. I don't like regulations that don't work for the people, but into some of the contracts and negotiations and relationships between countries. Bitcoin has to be part of that conversation, and it better start acting now before rogue nations get access to Bitcoin and the blockchain.
Thank you, Jamil. Ariana, your thoughts on this? What advice would you give?
Well, I think again, the advice on all fronts is kind of specific. I would say, broadly speaking, advice to consumers would be pay attention. I've been telling people about cryptocurrency for 5 years at this point, and for a number of years, everyone told me that I was crazy and that I was going to lose all my money and that this was going to go away and that it was indeed a fraud. And I think at this point, it's become pretty clear that that's not the case. Jamie notwithstanding. I think the same advice applies to people, in the traditional financial markets and in traditional finance. I think folks will really regret not having paid attention to this now. I was just seeing yesterday that over 20% of central banks think that they will be using blockchain applications in the next 2 years, and 2 years for a bank is actually quite a short time horizon. So I think there's just so much momentum building that whether you're a consumer, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a player in the existing financial markets or a government, paying attention now is really the best thing that you can be doing. And it's surprising to me how few folks actually are still now.
Only the leaders. We'll see what happens. Thank you, Ariana. Patrick, if you could give global leaders advice, what would you tell them?
I'm going to be blunt. Wake up. Or, there's a saying, evolve or die. There's a tremendous amount of brain power here. IBM, huge push into space. Fidelity Mutual Funds. If you get her last name, the CEO, Avi, huge proponent of Bitcoin, trying to figure out how to get it out there. Blythe Masters, she invented collateralized debt securities. She's involved at digital asset holding. Barry Silberg pretty much created liquidity in the secondary market, which he sold to NASDAQ. Now he has the digital currency group. Mark Anderson, brilliant mind, gets a lot of them right at the Anderson and Horowitz. Huge amount of money into blockchain startups, probably owns a little bit, written a lot of articles. The government can use this for anti-fraud and anti-counterfeiting and save boatloads of money. And it can also reduce backlog in courts. I mean, I can go on and on and on about this. The politicians are just not in the pool at all. And I mean, I guess they got other problems, but
the old government's listening. Thank you, Patrick. Definitely have ministers listening today, looking to learn from you guys as the best in the business. Thomas, any insights you want to share? Any advice you want to give to government leaders listening today? And then let's jump on to our next question.
Yeah, sure. My advice to world leaders would be actually fairly simple. Embrace it and don't fight it. With the blockchain technology, the cards are mixed anew. Everybody has an equal chance around the world in 192 countries that we have to be a player in it, and it can only make our lives a lot better. And one thing that hasn't really been pointed out so much is with blockchain technology, we have a completely new layer of security, something that we've just recently seen all these big hacks, releases of personal information, identity theft. A lot of that can be avoided in the future, where we will rely even more on digitalization. IoT bots, we're supposed to have 20 billion of them in 2 years. And if they got all hacked, it would be easy to hack, we'll have some real problems that can only be avoided if we work together and adopt all of this stuff to be used for authentication and communication on the blockchain. So I think there's huge potential, and time is wasted to fight it. I think everybody would be well advised to work together and embrace it instead.
Thank you, Thomas. And on that note, circling back, our next question goes to Bjorn, and then Jamil, we'd love to hear your insights too. Bjorn, what well-known corporate entities, in your opinion, are investing and participating in the Bitcoin ecosystem, and what specifically are they trying to do, and are they doing it right? We'd love to hear your insights, Bjorn, and then Jamil, please share as well.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is a lot of corporate investors are jumping on this smart contract stuff. Now, what they don't realize is you have to get the basics first. You have to learn yourself what Bitcoin is and how the blockchain works before you can even start on smart contracts. Deloitte is out there doing a lot of smart contract stuff, and as far as I know, they don't have that, you know, the foundation in place to go around doing that. Now, like I said earlier, Ernst & Young in Switzerland, they started with the basics. And I like that a lot, and I see the potential for a lot of progress there, because they know, you know, they got all their employees to download a Bitcoin wallet. They even have their own EY Bitcoin wallet, and you know, they're building the foundation the right way. Now they will be ahead of the game for quite some time, I believe. But yeah, you know, there's going to be major disruption in the corporate world, and I think, yeah, companies like EY Switzerland is definitely ahead of the game.
Thank you, Bjorn. Jamil, we'd love to hear your insights, and then moving on to our almost end of our session. So please go for it, Jamil.
Well, as far as Bitcoin, you know, I read Amazon started taking payments. Of course, JP Morgan is there. And then, you know, I've always been professionally impressed with both Blythe Masters and Digital Asset Holdings. As far as the blockchain, my former company, AIG, has developed the blockchain technology, brought it on board. There's a really great security company called Blackridge that works on, you know, putting security on the blockchain. And then the first retail company that took on blockchain technology was Overstock.com. They are in a very good, you know, position, 49% leverage, as opposed to Amazon, who's a little over 100% leveraged at the equity. So I think those three companies are in a very good position for the future.
Thank you so much. And Thomas has some quick insights before we move on to our next question. Thomas, please go for it.
Yeah, as had been mentioned, looking at and working on the basis first. That's something I'm focused on almost daily with my mantra that I teach. People need to understand what really blockchain is, and without getting too technical, there is a huge divide between the proof of work concept, which is the underlying secure base of the actual blockchain technology, and then a lot of proprietary stuff that's called proof of stake and God knows what else. I work with the guys at the Hyperledger, which is run by the Linux Foundation, and it's all about open source, sharing information, having nothing proprietary in it. Yet 90% of the projects that are discussed and talked about there are all not open source, big corporations trying to get in their proprietary slices, IBM and many others. And it will be something that we need to look at very carefully, that we continue this path of having an open system that everybody can trust, where there's no proprietary in it, and need to teach people about what is actually proof of work and why is that so good and why can we trust it, and what the other systems all are that are based on something else. I could go on for this forever, but of course we don't have the time for it. But that's something that needs to be really well understood.
Thank you, Thomas, and we'll definitely be inviting you back. Unfortunately, our time is limited, and this is a very fascinating topic. But on that note, we'd love to go around our panel and ask each of you your opinions on this question. So please keep your answers super short because we don't want to run out of time and not hear from each of you. So the question posed to our panel is, in your opinion, what does the future hold for Bitcoin and this space in the next 1, 3, 5, 10 years? We want to hear your insights. We want to learn from you. So please go ahead, Ariana. I think we may have lost Ariana. Let's just make sure we've got Ariana. Go for it.
For a second. Yeah. So the future for Bitcoin, I think, you know, it's a little bit hard to say. I think in the long term, some of the most exciting use cases, and I'm not just talking Bitcoin, but I'm talking blockchain, Ethereum, and kind of the entire crypto ecosystem. Some of the most exciting use cases will be businesses or, you know, networks in which the majority of the value is accrued not from the central entity that is administering the network, but from the other participants. And so those, I think, are great candidates for innovation built on blockchain. In cases in which there are significant advantages in terms of efficiency, cost, et cetera, trust to having a central entity, well, in that case, you know, I think those are probably not great candidates for blockchain applications. At a high level, I think the network will continue, the crypto ecosystem will continue to accrue a lot of value. I know there's, you know, we talked a little bit about ETFs and things like that, and there's going to be a lot of money moving into the ecosystem, both for speculation and for actually building application purposes. So I'm very excited to kind of see what that looks like in the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Thank you, Ariana. Patrick, we want to hear what you think. What does the future hold in the next 10, as Ariana says, 10, 20 years?
In the next 5 to 10, 20 years, blockchain and, you know, not so much Bitcoin, but blockchain use cases, things are going to be, it's going to be some shape or form of it everywhere. And some entrepreneur unknown yet will create the killer app where it will be super easy to use this in a lot of different ways. And I think it's going to be much faster than I think. And I'm thinking 5 years will be really, really popular in some way. I think it's going to be faster.
Thank you, Patrick. And we'd love to hear from you, Jamil. Please go ahead.
In the last 11 years, we've had no organic growth in the US. I see blockchain and Bitcoin being the way for companies to put their money back into their business and to grow their businesses. I also see cryptocurrency as the millennials and the dreamers version of pensions. I see this as being a tremendous growth opportunity for not only the US, but the rest of the world. And I look forward to being part of it. Thank you.
Awesome. Bjorn, please share your insights here.
Yeah, so what's going to happen in the next 2 years is we're right now going into the build years. So I don't think there's going to be, you know, the hype is going to stay there. The Bitcoin's going to stay there, but not much in, you know, some projects are going to pop up. But in 2 years' time, so what I'm saying is right now we're going from the mad scientist part of this over to the early adapter side of this. In 2 to 5 years, we're going to see, you know, much more mass adoption, products coming out, systems being changed, and all of those build years are behind us, and we're adopting this. In about 10 years' time, it's completely mass adopted, and it'll be integrated into everything around us. I think it's going to go really, really fast. And I believe, you know, now is, if you're not in a blockchain related project and you're one of the bigger companies in the world, you must be doing something wrong. I'm sorry, but you should be on this.
Thank you, Bjorn. And last but not least, your thoughts on this question. Thomas, please go ahead. Unfortunately, our time is limited, so please just keep your answer short.
Yes, ma'am. I agree with the other guys. This is going to change every one of our lives. And so I think that this will be something that we'll see in a very large deployment, not everything visible to everybody, a lot of it working in the background. We'll see multiple public blockchains and even more private blockchains working together in meta blockchains or interledgers or whatever it will be called, but it will be enormous.
Thank you, Thomas. Now we have learned a ton today, and I know they are VIPs, so we can't let them leave without getting a tweet piece of advice to apply so that we can become as successful as they are in this space. So we're going to ask our VIPs to prepare their tweet piece of advice for us to get into the space as soon as possible. So while they're doing that, thanks to everyone for a truly amazing session. As you see, you get to learn from the best every single week, and we are very privileged. Just to keep you posted on our upcoming sessions with the world's best joining us again as panelists. Next week, Wednesday, we have hands-on investment. What's the right amount of involvement an investor should have in a startup? On the 11th of October, we have fundamental truths that will change your life as an entrepreneur. And then we have on the 15th of October, inspiring woman changing venture capital and corporate innovation. Please keep us up to date on your progress. We love hearing from you, and our VIPs love hearing that you're succeeding. You can always email us at inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com, and you can always find me as well as our VIPs and champions on LinkedIn. As I say, we love hearing from you. If you enjoyed today's session and you feel there are other entrepreneurs around the world who could benefit from it, make sure to share the invitations so that we can get to our 100-country goal. We know we are changing the world together. Now we're going to ask our VIPs as quickly as possible to give us their tweet piece of advice, and we're going to become super, super, super successful, starting with Bjorn. Bjorn, please give us your tweet piece of advice.
The future is decentralized. Don't trust, verify.
Awesome. Jamil, your tweet piece of advice.
Adopt, adapt, and thrive.
Awesome. Ariana, your tweet piece of advice.
Get involved now. Learn, research, and buy some.
Thank you. Your tweet piece of advice, Patrick.
More of an investment. Once you double your position, sell the stake you put in, rinse and repeat to another coin.
Thank you. And Thomas, your tweet piece of advice.
We live in very exciting times. Use it, get involved, do it, and I've been more than happy to answer any question that somebody poses to me directly. The guys have posted all the communication and contact information. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Thomas. And to echo what our VIPs were saying, I've made notes of everything they're saying, so I become as successful as they are in this space. Be very, very grateful for everything that you have. We are living in exciting times, and we're very privileged to be entrepreneurs and to be doing these disruptive, innovative things. We are extremely privileged to learn from the best. So thank you again to our VIPs for joining us today. Thank you, everyone, for a truly amazing session. Remember to keep hustling and to never, 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 never give up. On the count of 3, we're going to ask our VIPs to shout bye. 1, 2, 3. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you next week. Bye.